Welcome to our channel, where we bring you the most spine-chilling tales and unsettling true stories. Today, we have a true story: The Haunting of Willow Creek, Rebirth, the Forgotten Orphanage. Sit back, but not too comfortably, as we dive into this unnerving narrative. The sun dips below the horizon, casting a warm, orange glow over the sleepy town of Willow Creek. As the last rays of light fade, Evelyn Harris steps out of her car, a rickety old station wagon, and takes a deep breath. It's been 20 years since she last set foot in this place, but the memories come flooding back as she looks around. The old orphanage, where she spent most of her childhood, looms before her like a ghost of the past. Its weathered walls, once a beacon of hope and safety, now stand as a testament to the countless lives that passed through its doors. Evelyn had fled Willow Creek as soon as she was old enough, eager to put the ghosts of her past behind her. But fate had a different plan. Her adoptive parents, the ones who raised her and loved her, had passed away, leaving her the orphanage in their will. Now, here she was, back in the town she had spent her whole life trying to forget, standing before the building that held both her happiest and most tragic memories. She trudges up the creaky front steps, the sound of her shoes echoing through the empty hallway. The air inside feels musty and stale, as if time itself has stood still since she left. Peeling wallpaper covers the walls, faded posters of long-forgotten movies hanging crookedly from the hooks. The floors creak beneath her feet, and she can't shake the feeling that she's being watched. A chill runs down her spine as she enters the dining hall, where she spent countless meals with the other children. The long tables are now covered in a thin layer of dust, the chairs tipped over as if in a rush to flee the room. She pauses, listening, but all she can hear is the distant hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen. Perhaps it's just her imagination, she thinks. Upstairs, in her old bedroom, she finds her belongings just as she left them. Her favorite stuffed animal, a battered teddy bear named Edward, sits on her pillow, watching her with one glassy eye. The posters on the walls, once bright and colorful, are now faded and yellowed. She digs through her old trunk, finding pictures of her and the other children, laughing and playing in the yard, oblivious to the darkness that lurked just out of sight. But it's not just the physical reminders that bring back memories. She can feel it, almost as if the ghosts of the children who died here are still with her. Their laughter echoes down the hallways, their footsteps padding softly across the floors. She can almost make out their faces in the shadows, their empty eyes filled with sorrow and despair. As the first night passes, Evelyn begins to doubt her sanity. Perhaps she's just imagining things, her mind playing tricks on her after all these years. But when she wakes up the next morning, the eerie giggles and footsteps are still there, as clear as day. She can no longer ignore the fact that something sinister is going on here. Something that ties back to the dark secrets of the orphanage and the children who died within its walls. With a heavy heart, she decides to investigate further. She spends hours poring over old records, searching for any clue as to what might have happened all those years ago. The more she reads, the more she begins to understand the true horror of the place. The orphanage was run by a man named Arthur Denning, a cruel and abusive figure who ruled with an iron fist. The children were subjected to unspeakable horrors, their cries of pain and fear echoing through the halls. As she continues her search, she stumbles across an old journal, tucked away in the back of a dusty bookshelf. The leather-bound book is filled with illegible scribbles and drawings, its pages stained with tears. But as she begins to decipher the childish handwriting, she realizes that this is the journal of a girl who died here. A girl named Sarah. Sarah's entries chronicle the abuse she suffered at the hands of Denning and his staff, as well as her deepest fears and darkest secrets. With a lump in her throat, Evelyn closes the journal and returns it to its hiding place. She knows now that she must do something to honor Sarah and the others who suffered at the hands of the people who were supposed to protect them. She must bring the truth to light and ensure that those responsible are brought to justice. The sun begins to set once again, casting a somber glow over the orphanage. Evelyn stands before the front door, her resolve steeled. She takes a deep breath and turns the rusty key in the lock, opening the door and stepping out into the night. As she does, a chill runs down her spine, as if the ghosts of the past are whispering their approval. With a final glance back at the building that once held so many secrets, she walks away, determined to make sure that the orphanage will never again be a place of darkness and despair. Evelyn's heart raced as she descended deeper into the musty basement of the old orphanage. The dimly lit corners and creaky floorboards seemed to close in on her, creating an eerie atmosphere that sent shivers down her spine. She had been exploring the abandoned rooms upstairs, but something compelled her to investigate the basement as well. Perhaps it was the persistent feeling that she was not alone, that unseen eyes watched her every move. Finally, she stumbled upon a hidden door, concealed behind a stack of old boxes. Behind it lay a dusty, cobweb-covered bookshelf, and nestled between two ancient leather-bound volumes, she found a small, worn journal. The leather was faded and torn, its pages yellowed with age, but the faded ink still held its secrets. Curiosity getting the better of her, Evelyn carefully removed the journal from its hiding place and sat down on an old wooden crate, flipping through its pages. The handwriting was spidery and difficult to decipher, but as she continued reading, the story began to unfold before her eyes. The journal was written by one of the orphan children who had once lived in the orphanage. It detailed their tragic lives, the abuse they suffered at the hands of the caretakers, and the increasingly disturbing supernatural events that plagued the place before it was shut down. As she read further, Evelyn's heart ached for the innocent souls who had suffered and died here, their cries for help silenced by the cold, unfeeling world around them. The more she read, the more she realized that the orphanage was not just haunted by the ghosts of the children who had died there, but by the very essence of their suffering and torment. It was as if their spirits had been trapped within these walls, unable to find peace or escape the cycle of pain and despair. Shivering, Evelyn closed the journal and looked around the basement, wondering if there were any way to help the poor souls who were still trapped here. She knew that she couldn't just abandon them to their fate, but what could she possibly do? It was a problem far greater than she could ever hope to solve on her own. With a heavy heart, she climbed back upstairs, her mind racing with thoughts of what she had read. The weight of the knowledge she now possessed was almost too much to bear. The orphanage, once a place of safety and refuge, had become a prison for the lost souls who had suffered within its walls. As she made her way back up to her room, she couldn't help but feel a new sense of determination growing inside her. She may not have all the answers, but she refused to stand by and do nothing while these poor spirits continued to suffer. Somehow, she would find a way to set them free. Intrigued by the journal's entries and determined to help the trapped souls find peace, Evelyn seeks advice from the town historian. The historian, an elderly woman named Miss Jenkins, is initially skeptical but intrigued by Evelyn's sincerity and determination. She reveals that the ritual mentioned in the journal is indeed real, and it involves a series of complex steps that must be performed under the cover of midnight. To begin the ritual, Evelyn must gather several items: a pure white candle, a handful of sacred soil from the orphanage grounds, and a vial of spring water. The historian provides her with a cryptic map leading to a hidden grove where these items can be found. As Evelyn sets out on her quest, the townspeople watch her warily, unsure whether to believe her story or to label her as crazy. The moon hangs heavy in the sky as Evelyn follows the winding paths through the forest. The air is thick with anticipation and a sense of foreboding. She stumbles upon the hidden grove, illuminated by the ethereal glow of a full moon. The trees are adorned with strange, twisted branches, and the ground is littered with the petals of long-dead flowers. In the center of the grove stands a massive oak tree, its trunk carved with ancient runes and symbols. Shivering from a combination of cold and fear, Evelyn carefully approaches the tree. She lights the candle and uses it to find a shallow depression in the soil, where the historian had instructed her to place the sacred soil. Next, she pours the spring water into the depression, allowing it to seep into the ground. As she does this, a strange humming sound fills the air, growing louder and more intense with each passing moment. The tree begins to sway gently in the breeze, its branches creaking and groaning under the strain. A sudden gust of wind sends a shower of leaves raining down upon Evelyn, blinding her momentarily. When she can see again, she realizes that the oak tree has split down the middle, revealing a hidden chamber within. Inside, the faint outline of children's faces can be seen, etched into the stone walls. Their eyes flicker with recognition, and for the first time in decades, they seem to find peace. As the last of the leaves settle to the ground, Evelyn steps inside the chamber, her heart filled with a mixture of sadness and relief. She knows that their journey is far from over, but she takes comfort in the knowledge that she has given them a small measure of peace, even if only for a moment. With a final, tearful glance at the children, she turns and walks away, her steps no longer haunted by the ghostly laughter and footsteps of the orphanage. As midnight struck, Evelyn stood in the abandoned chapel of the old orphanage, her heart pounding with both fear and determination. She had gathered all of the items necessary for the ancient ritual, carefully following the instructions in the long-lost journal she had discovered. The flickering candlelight cast eerie shadows across the dusty floor, and the air was thick with anticipation. Taking a deep breath, she began to recite the ancient words, her voice trembling at first but growing steadier as she went on. In nomen patris, et filii, et spiritus sancti, she intoned, feeling a strange energy surging through her as she spoke. Ego sum lux vera, cui illuminat omniaque sunt in tenebris. Around her, the air began to stir. A soft, ethereal light filled the room, bathing everything in an otherworldly glow. The ancient stones of the chapel seemed to shift and twist, as if they were alive. And then, from the darkness, the first ghostly forms began to materialize. They were the children of the orphanage, their faces etched with suffering and pain, their eyes filled with an unbearable sadness. Evelyn's heart broke as she saw them appear, one by one, floating toward her through the air. She could feel their anguish and their despair, could almost taste the bitterness of their untimely deaths. She knew that she could not undo the past, could not erase the horrors they had endured, but perhaps she could give them some small measure of peace. "I am so sorry," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the sound of her own ragged breathing. "I wish I could have saved you. I wish I could have protected you." She bowed her head, tears streaming down her face. "But know this, you will never be forgotten. You will always be a part of me, and I will honor your memories until the day I die." As she spoke, the ghostly children seemed to gather around her, their translucent forms almost touching hers. They floated silently, their pale faces turned toward her, their eyes filled with a mixture of gratitude and sadness. And then, as if a great weight had been lifted from their tiny shoulders, their forms began to dissipate, fading back into the darkness from which they had come. When the last of the children had disappeared, Evelyn felt a sense of profound loss wash over her. She had never realized how much these poor souls had meant to her, how much their stories had come to define her own existence. But despite the sorrow, she also felt a newfound sense of purpose. From this moment on, she would dedicate her life to ensuring that the memory of the children of Willow Creek would never be forgotten, that their tragic stories would serve as a reminder of the darkness that humans are capable of, and of the importance of love, compassion, and understanding. The air in the chapel grew still once more, and Evelyn knew that the ritual was complete. She stood for a long moment, her thoughts spinning as she tried to process all that had happened. Finally, with a shaky breath, she turned and made her way out of the chapel, back into the night. The stars twinkled overhead, and the gentle breeze rustled the leaves of the trees, a peaceful soundscape that seemed almost at odds with the turmoil in her heart. Evelyn knew that her life would never be the same again. But as she walked through the empty streets of Willow Creek, she also felt a sense of determination and strength growing within her. For she had set free the souls of the children, and in doing so, she had freed herself as well. A new chapter in her life was beginning, one filled with hope and purpose, and she intended to make the most of it. As she walked, she heard a soft, ethereal laughter drifting on the wind, and she knew that the spirits of the children were still with her, guiding her, watching over her. And though she would miss them terribly, she also felt a sense of comfort in their presence, knowing that they would always be a part of her, just as she would always be a part of them. Evelyn Harris stood at the entrance of the now-renovated orphanage, her heart swelling with pride and a sense of accomplishment. The once dilapidated building had been restored to its former glory, its walls painted a warm yellow, its windows sparkling with fresh glass. The grounds were now home to a playground, a garden, and a community center that welcomed children from all walks of life. It was a safe haven for those who might have suffered a similar fate as the ghostly children who had once haunted these halls. The community center had become the heart of Willow Creek, a place where children could come to learn, play, and grow. Evelyn's vision had become a reality, and she was now known as the woman who had brought light and hope to the town. People often stopped her on the street to express their gratitude for what she had done, and she always made sure to give them a warm smile and a reassuring pat on the shoulder. As Evelyn walked through the center, she marveled at how far it had come. The classrooms were filled with eager students learning everything from the alphabet to the violin. The art room was a mess of paint and clay, testament to the creativity of the children. The library was well stocked with books, thanks to the generous donations from the community. Even the garden had taken root, providing fresh vegetables and herbs for the center's cooking classes. The orphanage's former dining hall now served as the community center's main gathering space, and Evelyn often hosted events there. There were talent shows, bake sales, and even a small farmer's market where the children could sell their produce. The laughter and chatter of the children filled the air, a beautiful contrast to the eerie silence that had once permeated the building. Evelyn's life had also changed for the better. She had met a kind-hearted man named Thomas who worked as a librarian at the center. They had fallen in love and soon after gotten married. Thomas was supportive of Evelyn's work, and together they made a wonderful team. They often talked about adopting a child one day, continuing the legacy of love and care that they had started with the community center. As she stood at the front of the room, addressing the children and their parents during the center's annual fundraiser, Evelyn couldn't help but feel grateful for the life she now led. She was no longer afraid of the shadows or the whispers in the night. The ghosts of the past had finally found peace, and Evelyn had found her purpose. "I want to thank each and every one of you for being here tonight," she began, her voice strong and clear. "When I first came to Willow Creek, I never could have imagined that this place would become what it is today. But it's because of your support, your kindness, and your belief in this community that we have been able to make such a difference in the lives of so many children." The crowd applauded, their faces filled with pride and admiration. Evelyn smiled, feeling the warmth of their love and appreciation washing over her. As some of you may know, this all started with a single act of bravery. A woman named Evelyn Harris decided to confront her fears and stand up for what was right. And because of that, she has inspired countless others to do the same. So I want to ask you all, as you leave here tonight, to think about what you can do to make a difference in the life of a child. It doesn't have to be something big. A kind word, a helping hand, a moment of your time. Together, we can create a world where every child has the chance to grow up happy and safe, just like the ones here at the Willow Creek Community Center. The crowd once again erupted into applause, and Evelyn took a deep breath, allowing the emotion of the moment to wash over her. As the applause died down, she looked out over the sea of faces, each one filled with hope and promise. And she knew, in that moment, that her decision to confront her fears had not only changed her life, but had changed the lives of countless others as well. With a final smile and a wave, Evelyn stepped aside, allowing the next speaker to take the stage. But even as she relinquished the spotlight, she could feel the weight of her newfound responsibility pressing down on her shoulders. And she knew that, for as long as she lived, she would never shirk that burden. For the ghosts of the past had taught her that sometimes, the most important thing we can do is to simply stand up and be brave. And in the end, that bravery can change the world. The years pass by, and Evelyn Harris continues to run the community center with a fierce dedication. She has transformed the old orphanage into a haven for children in need, a place where they can find safety, love, and opportunity. The building is now bustling with activity, filled with laughter and the sounds of children playing. Despite the changes, Evelyn makes sure to keep alive the memory of the ghostly children who once roamed these halls, their tragic stories serving as a constant reminder of the importance of compassion and understanding. Evelyn's days are filled with the joy of watching the children grow and thrive under her care. She has become a beloved figure in the community, known for her kindness and her unwavering determination to make a difference in the lives of those around her. At night, however, when the lights are dimmed and the children are asleep, she sometimes feels the presence of the ghosts more keenly. She finds herself thinking about their lives, their suffering, and the injustices they endured. It is a heavy burden, but one that Evelyn carries with grace and resilience. One evening, as she sits in her office, going over paperwork, she feels a sudden chill run down her spine. She looks up, expecting to see nothing out of the ordinary, but as her eyes adjust to the dim light, she catches a glimpse of something moving across the room. It's just a fleeting image, gone as quickly as it appeared, but it's enough to send a shiver down her spine. She gets to her feet, feeling a mixture of apprehension and anticipation. "Hello," she calls out, her voice trembling slightly. "Is someone there?" There is no answer, but she feels a sense of presence, as if someone is watching her. She walks slowly across the room, her heart pounding in her chest. As she reaches the spot where she saw the apparition, she takes a deep breath and turns around, preparing to face whatever it is that's haunting her. To her surprise, she finds herself standing in front of a small, dusty bookshelf. Upon closer inspection, she realizes that it is the same bookshelf she found the hidden journal in all those years ago. With trembling hands, she pulls out a small, leather-bound book. The cover is worn and faded, but she recognizes it instantly. It is the journal of the orphan children, filled with their anguished cries for help and their desperate pleas for someone to believe them. As she flips through the pages, she feels a sense of connection to the children, as if they are reaching out to her across the years, asking for her help once more. She spends the rest of the night reading, her eyes filling with tears as she bears witness to the unimaginable horrors they endured. The next day, Evelyn decides to share what she's discovered with the town historian, hoping that together they might be able to uncover more about the children's lives and bring some measure of peace to their troubled souls. As they pore over old records and interview survivors of the orphanage, they begin to piece together a more complete picture of the atrocities that occurred there. The journey is difficult and painful, but Evelyn finds solace in the knowledge that she is not alone in her quest for truth and justice. Slowly but surely, they uncover the names of the children who perished and the names of the monsters who were responsible for their deaths. They work tirelessly to right the wrongs of the past, ensuring that the memories of these innocent souls will never be forgotten. Years pass, and Evelyn continues to run the community center with a renewed sense of purpose. Though the ghosts no longer manifest themselves to her as they once did, she feels their presence in the quiet moments, a gentle reminder of the lives that were lost and the lessons she learned from their tragic stories. She has dedicated her life to honoring their memories, and in doing so, she has become a beacon of hope for countless children who have suffered under the weight of injustice. The community center continues to thrive, its reputation spreading far and wide as a place of refuge and healing. Evelyn's story has inspired countless others to take up the mantle of compassion and understanding, and in doing so, she has ensured that the spirits of the ghostly children will live on, not only in the hearts of those who knew them, but in the actions of those who continue to fight for justice on their behalf. As she sits in her office on a quiet evening, watching the children play outside, Evelyn can't help but feel a sense of peace wash over her. She knows that she has done all that she can to right the wrongs of the past, and that the ghosts of the orphanage now find their rest. But she also knows that their stories will never truly be silenced, for as long as there are people willing to listen and learn from them. And for that, she is eternally grateful. One crisp autumn evening, Evelyn Harris sits in her cozy living room, her feet propped up on an ottoman as she reads a book. A warm fire crackles in the fireplace, casting flickering shadows across the walls of her well-kept home. She's been living in Willow Creek for several years now, and has turned the old orphanage she once called home into a thriving community center for children in need. It's a fulfilling life, filled with love and purpose. But then, a sudden knock at the door interrupts her peaceful evening. She sighs, setting her book aside and trudging to the door. On the front porch stands a young girl, no more than 10 years old, clutching a worn sweater around her shoulders. Her eyes are wide with fear, and she trembles as she speaks. "Miss Evelyn," she says, her voice quavering. "My name is Lily. I think I saw a ghost." Evelyn's eyebrows raise in surprise, but she remains calm and reassuring. "Oh, Lily," she says gently. "Ghosts are just stories, meant to scare people. There's nothing to be afraid of." Lily shakes her head vigorously, her dark curls bouncing around her face. "No, Miss Evelyn, I'm not talking about a regular ghost. I saw a boy. His name was Thomas." Evelyn's heart skips a beat. Thomas was the name of a young boy who had lived at the orphanage many years ago, before it was shut down due to the horrific abuse he and the other children had endured. He had died under mysterious circumstances, his body never found. Evelyn had always suspected that he might still be trapped on the grounds, unable to find peace. "Can you tell me more about what you saw, Lily?" she asks, leading the girl inside and sitting her down on the couch. Lily takes a deep breath, her small shoulders squaring as she prepares to speak. "I was playing in the backyard, you know, near the old tree where they used to bury the kids in the stories. And I saw him, Miss Evelyn. He was standing there, looking at me. His eyes were all ghostly and white, and he was wearing this old-fashioned suit." Evelyn's heart skips a beat, but she remains calm and comforting. "That sounds very scary, Lily. Do you think we could go back to the tree and see if we can find out what's going on? Maybe we can help him move on to a better place." Lily nods eagerly, her eyes filling with tears. "Okay," she says, sniffling. But only if you're with me, Miss Evelyn." Evelyn pats the girl's hand reassuringly. "Of course, Lily. I'll be right beside you the whole time." Together, they make their way back outside and across the yard to the ancient tree that looms over them, its gnarled branches reaching towards the sky like clawed fingers. The air around them feels heavy with sadness and unease, and Evelyn can feel the weight of the tree's history pressing down upon her shoulders. She takes a deep breath, steeling herself for what she might find, and then turns to address the children gathered around her. "All right, everyone," she says, her voice steady and strong. "I need you all to stay behind me and stay close. I'm going to try and help Thomas find peace, but it might be scary for a moment." "Okay." The children nod in unison, their faces a mix of fear and determination. Evelyn approaches the tree, her footsteps slow and deliberate. She reaches out and touches the rough bark, feeling its ancient power coursing through her veins. Closing her eyes, she takes a deep breath and begins to murmur words of release, calling upon the spirit of Thomas to reveal itself. At first, nothing happens. The air around them remains heavy and oppressive, and Evelyn begins to wonder if she's made a mistake. But then, as she continues to chant, a soft glow begins to emanate from the center of the tree. The light grows brighter and brighter, casting long shadows across the ground, and Evelyn feels a presence nearby. She opens her eyes and sees Thomas, just as Lily described him, standing a few feet away. His eyes are no longer ghostly, but filled with relief and gratitude. Evelyn steps forward, reaching out a hand to him. "Thomas," she says, her voice gentle and soothing, "it's time to find your rest. You don't have to be afraid anymore. You can leave this place and move on to wherever it is you need to go." Thomas takes a tentative step towards her, his face a mix of confusion and hope. I don't know where to go," he whispers. "I've been here so long. Evelyn nods, understanding. She clasps her hands together, summoning all of her strength and wisdom. "Then I will help you," she says firmly. "You can come with me, and we'll find you a peaceful place together." Thomas nods slowly, his eyes never leaving hers. Together, they walk back across the yard, the children parting to let them pass. As they reach the front porch, Thomas turns back one last time, a small smile playing at the corners of his lips. "Thank you," he whispers. "Thank you for giving me peace." Evelyn returns his smile, feeling a weight lift from her heart. "You're welcome, Thomas," she says, her voice warm and reassuring. "It was my pleasure." And with that, Thomas disappears into the night, finally able to find the rest he's been searching for all these years. Evelyn turns to the children, her face alight with a newfound joy. "All right, everyone," she says, clapping her hands together. "Let's go inside and have a nice, warm cup of cocoa, shall we?" The children nod in agreement, following her inside with renewed energy and hope. As they gather around the fireplace, Evelyn can't help but feel a sense of pride and accomplishment. She may not be able to change the entire world, but she can make a difference in the lives of these children, and in the spirits who still wander the halls of the old orphanage. And for now, that's enough. As word spreads of Evelyn's success in helping Thomas, more people begin to approach her with their own stories of hauntings and paranormal activity in the area. Realizing that her work is far from over, Evelyn dedicates herself even more to the cause, determined to help as many spirits find peace as she can. In the process, she becomes a beacon of hope and strength for the entire community, proving that even the darkest pasts can be overcome with love, compassion, and determination. One day, a frail old woman named Margaret stops by the community center, her eyes filled with tears. She explains that her late husband, a former caretaker at a nearby estate, had been haunted by the ghost of a young girl he had once accidentally drowned in the estate's pond. The ghost had terrorized him for years, and even after his death, she had felt its presence linger in their home. Evelyn listens intently, feeling a deep sense of empathy for Margaret. She offers her a comforting hug and tells her not to worry. Together, they can help the girl find peace. Over the next few weeks, Evelyn researches the estate in question and discovers that the girl's name was Emily. She had been the daughter of the estate's wealthy owners, who had drowned while playing near the pond. Despite being a caretaker's child himself, Margaret's husband had been too afraid to speak up about the incident for fear of losing his job. Evelyn gathers a small group of volunteers, including Margaret, and they travel to the estate to perform the ritual. As they approach the pond, Evelyn can feel the weight of Emily's spirit pressing down upon them. She takes a deep breath and begins to recite the incantations, her voice strong and steady despite the eerie atmosphere. The others join in, their voices echoing across the water. As they reach the final words of the ritual, a soft glow begins to emanate from the surface of the pond. It grows brighter and brighter until, with a final burst of light, Emily's spirit is released, her spirit finally free to move on. Margaret collapses to her knees, sobbing with relief. Evelyn holds her hand tightly, feeling the weight of the old woman's gratitude. They stay by the pond for some time, watching as the ripples from their actions slowly fade away. Finally, they turn and walk back to the community center, their steps lighter and their hearts lighter still. Word of Evelyn's success spreads like wildfire throughout the town, and soon people from all corners of Willow Creek are coming to her for help. A young man named Jacob tells her about his grandfather, who had been haunted by the ghost of a boy he had accidentally run over with his car many years ago. A teenage girl named Sarah confides in her about the ghost of her former best friend, who had died in a tragic accident at their school. And an elderly man named George reveals that he has been seeing the ghost of his late wife every time he looks into the mirror. With each new story, Evelyn feels a renewed sense of determination. She spends countless hours researching and preparing for each ritual, ensuring that every detail is accounted for. And with each successful exorcism, the people of Willow Creek begin to see a brighter future, one where the shadows of the past no longer loom so large. One night, a young boy named Timothy approaches Evelyn, his eyes filled with fear. He tells her about a girl named Abigail who had died in a car accident on the road outside of town. Her spirit now haunts the roadside, appearing as a hitchhiker to unsuspecting travelers. Evelyn listens intently, her heart breaking for the poor girl. She promises Timothy that she will do everything in her power to help Abigail find peace. The next day, Evelyn travels to the spot where Abigail died. She gathers a small group of volunteers, including Timothy, and they begin to perform the ritual. As they chant the incantations, they feel a powerful energy building within them. It's as if Abigail herself is lending them her strength, guiding them towards the light. Finally, with a blinding flash of light, Abigail's spirit is released. She fades away into the distance, her final words of thanks ringing in Evelyn's ears. As they turn to leave, Evelyn realizes that her work is far from over. There are countless other spirits trapped in this world, lost and alone. But with every spirit she helps, she knows that she is making a difference, bringing peace and closure to those who need it most. And so, Evelyn continues her work, her heart filled with compassion and determination. She becomes a beacon of hope for the people of Willow Creek, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there are those who will fight for the light. Together, they will face the shadows and emerge stronger than ever before. Thank you so much for joining me on this cinematic journey. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more like it, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. Have you experienced a spine-chilling horror that left you trembling? Share your terrifying tale with us by emailing nightmarenetwork@hotmail.com, and we'd be thrilled to feature it on our platform. Until next time, happy movie watching.